Bump, bump, bump. Hello, hello, hello. That looks like it's at the right height for the start of this piece. I guess sound check, check. Also should get glasses check. What are my glasses? I just had them in my hand, put them down while I did something, and now they're gone. Okay, there. Nope, my phone's telling me I'm online, which is, I guess, a good thing. All right. So here's Galactus. I did do a little bit more. Found I didn't like. I was really excited about one of the sketches I was working on last week, and as I started assembling in a bigger piece, it just didn't feel powerful enough. Hey, Anson, thanks so much for checking on the sound. Thanks so much for showing up. I ended up doing more of a hovering type Galactus, and it's going to be. I kind of decided to be more playful with the design. I'm not Jack Kirby. I'm not one of the artists that can really pull off what Kirby does. I have to translate it through my own lens. And I'm also not a huge continuity freak. Thanks, Charles. Yeah. So I'm of the mind if Galactus is this eternal level creature in the Marvel universe and he eats planets, why does he? I can see why he eventually built a spaceship, because he just wants to float through space. But I never really understood why he had machinery, unless it was some sort of cutlery of some sort, to actually eat the planet. I always figured it's something he would just be able to do by landing on it, and he would just start absorbing it. And then I just thought it's like his digestive process would be almost incredibly polluting. So I came up with the idea of like putting some, and this might be also from like the excitement for Alien Romulus coming up, put some like alien like vents on his shoulders. So as he's like consuming the planet, the waste product gets blasted out over his head. So it's going to be lit from the bottom. Let's see if I can do a show of the bottom. So that's how much is at the bottom. Renders the components in the pizza. That's great. So it's going to go from mostly white at the bottom, and then be very, 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 very dark at the top, and it's going to even be darker with this. So this is it's actually even physically bigger than I originally intended. I was going to do it on an 11 by 17 piece of watercolor paper. Then I realized I had these bigger sheets, and so I trimmed it down to 13 by 19. So this is, I think, 11 by 17, the actual art area. Let's see if I can find a piece of 11 by 17 paper and compare. Okay, I got this partially finished which piece here. So let's see here. It is essentially 11 by 17. So that's a pretty big painting it's going to be here. Yeah, and because last week I was so unprepared and I ended up doing so much misdirection thing, I think I'm going to skip the book stuff. There's a copy of the Alien photo novel. Actually, you know what? I think part of the chatter tonight is going to be about Alien Romulus, because I just saw it yesterday and it blew my mind. I'm going to stick that binder. And it reminded me that years ago, we'll pull these out. There we go. Years and years and years ago. God, my studio needs to be cleaned. It's been about a month since I've done sort of tidying. So years ago, I got in a weird little kick on sketch cards because it looked like they were becoming funny and trendy, and I'd never drawn anything that small. Let me pull this down for this. So I ended up just buying this little pack of Strathmore. I think it was 200 Strathmore plate Bristol sketch cards. So I did these little drawings, and they were fun. And I did them for a whole week. I drew. I have this Alien photo novel floating around in my apartment somewhere. I'll dig out maybe for next week or the week after. Next time I do an Alien drawing or something. Dallas. I thought this one came up. I really liked the what I did with the lines there. posted these to my Patreon yesterday because it made me think about them. And all I had on my computer was ancient bad quality scan that I was using for JPEGs. Harry Dean Stanton. I only did it for like Monday to Friday because that was my shtick for my blog at the time, was to just do sketch cards for 1 week, do a different subject every day. What I really should have done is I should have done 2 weeks of Alien, because then I could have got Yaphet Kotto, Veronica Cartwright. I could have done the Big Chap, maybe a face hugger. It would have been no issue at all to find another 5 images to do of chest burster. They do. Well, they're also very, very HR eager. So it's like they're good for him. Every other artist kind of has to struggle. Yeah, so I rescanned them. I posted them on so all my Patreon supporters got to see them already if they've checked their account. And I think I'm going to post them online over the course of the week. And I got a lot of affection for them, but I might actually put them on my site and send them all as a group. So I think that might be a smart thing to do. It's been a while since I've done anything for the food bank, so I think I might just put those up with earmark. If they sell, I'll put them all to the food bank. That'd be a nice thing to do, I think. But anyway, I saw Alien Romulus. Oof. All right, so I am a seriously huge Alien head. So that means I've seen all of them, including the really terrible ones, which is most of them. Some being worse than others. I mean, Alien and Aliens, even though they were shot like 7 years apart, are awesome. Just great movies. Let's see if I can get a nice super dark black here. There's going to be a lot of airbrush on this piece later. In fact, you know what? Before I get too into it, I'm going to show you a piece of kit I stumbled across in a dollar store to add to my painting kit for when I use an airbrush. I'm just going to start throwing some darker values here on Galactus, because I know he's going to be mostly all this dark, and I can pull out highlights. This is definitely going to be. I'll be adding white paint on top of this as I go along. I just want to get some of these values down. But Alien Romulus was so good. Oh my God. So if I was grading him out of a 10, I would say, depending how generous I was, Alien is at least a 9 out of 10. Aliens is probably an 8.9, if not a 9 out of 10, depending on what movie I'm most in the mood for at the moment. And all the other movies fall pretty short. Prometheus, which I think gets a bit of a bad rap because it doesn't feel like an alien movie, even though it's supposed to be an alien. I think they marketed it wrong. I think they should have marketed it as in the Alien universe as opposed to being an Alien prequel, because it didn't connect in an effective way, to my mind. It was too in love with the other ideas that Ridley Scott wanted to explore, I felt. Which, again, not necessarily a bad thing, but it didn't make for a great connection to the movies that already existed. I get Ridley Scott's boredom and all that stuff, but so I think the next best one might be Prometheus, actually. Yeah, even though it's not. I think. Yeah, I think all the other Alien movies are just kind of awful in many ways. So Prometheus probably third place until Romulus came out, and I think Romulus kind of blows that out of the water. So I would give Romulus a 7.5, if not an 8. I'm going to see it again. I think the amount of rewatchability I get out of it is going to determine where I finally grade it. Yeah, I just thought it was so good. So if you're an Alien fan, you will enjoy Romulus, I think. Yeah, in that kit I wanted to show you. Here we go. So I was at the dollar store. Oh, here we go. So I've heard this. I haven't had it verified yet. I hear a couple of things about Ian Holm's appearance, and that this is a bit of a spoiler for people who haven't seen it. Sorry, I'm going to pull this back here a bit too, so it's not jumping around as much. So I understand it. It was done with the full authorization and participation of the in-home estate. And but part of the deal was if they're going to use the in-home, they have to show his full face, which limited what they could do with the look of the android in Romulus. So that I get. So I'm going to be really playing around with values a lot in this piece. So I think the uppermost part of Galactus is going to be almost black with some highlights because I'm going to have it's just the latest thing for me. The idea of science fiction is like floating balls in front of a light source. So he's got one in his belt, one in his chest, and one in his head. I just figured that's kind of cool. So I'll be doing some light effects, and then I'll be able to do aerial perspective effects through that. But to get that to really work, some of the stuff up here is going to be almost black, and then the smoke's going to be almost black, and there's going to be a dark sky, so you can see some stars just poking through here, and it's going to fade, and everything's going to be lighter and cloudier and everything there. So it's going to be kind of complicated, and I'll probably end up saving it at the end with some airbrush, which brings me up to the bit of kit I bought. I found this weird thing at the dollar store. And it's got a little bit of masking tape and this waxy, very thin paper. And the idea is, has a little cutting blade on it. Put that over there. So when I'm using airbrush, normally I take sheets of like otherwise scrap paper, but I don't make as much scrap paper as I used to. And I'll tape it. But this comes with the tape already. So I can just go like this. And then I got this shielded off of my area. So it just protects my desk and other stuff remarkably well, I think. So I'm pretty excited about, it was like just like $2 I think, for a big stonky roll. So that too. I'll hang on to this here for later. But I'm just like really happy with that little bit of kit. Nope, there's comments. Yeah, his family's fine with it. Apparently they got paid. I'm a little creeped out by using computer graphics to resurrect actors. Because it's like, fine, his estate's fine with it. That's good. But what if there's no estate? What if there's no one to talk to and they just take an actor's likeness and use it? I mean, that bothers me. I went too dark here. Yeah, use some paper towel to lighten it up. There we go. So yeah, that's yeah. So I'm hearing that they had permission because I think they could have sued and probably won if they didn't get that permission. And that it was like part of the negotiation had to be immediately recognizable as Ian Holm, and I think the family got approval over the final look of Rook in Romulus. I've seen so many people spoil it online. I'm actually not kind of worried about spoiling it anymore. If that makes sense. I don't want to see. I keep looking at this design of Galactus, and it's John Byrne. So it feels like, I mean, there's something when Kirby draws, or even Walt Simonson draws Kirby, there's that chunkiness. There's this solidity that just works. This just almost looks like a fanciful children's book illustration to me. So I don't really like the uber softness that Byrne brings to a lot of his designs. See, what I could do, the eyes are going to be white paint. This is going to get so dark up here that the skin tone is going to be about that. Probably modeled with that, but maybe add some highlights to it. But the eyes are going to be glowing white out of this, which I think will look pretty cool at the end of it. Well, 4 is so far in the future. I mean, that is what? From the timeline, I think it's like 200 years after Alien 3. I could be wrong. Um, like the later Alien movies, I'll rewatch every once in a while for the cool bits. I think Winona was charming in it. The bad guy from The Crow, whose name I'm escaping me from now, Wingcut. I thought he made a really interesting captain on of the team that was there to deliver the bodies. And it was like Wayland Yutani being bad guys again, which is like pretty damn typical. So it's got bits. I love the swimming aliens for that movie. That was pretty cool. But the design for that creature at the end was like so bad. Oh my god, I hate that. I hate that creature design. So I'm gonna be a little sloppy. I'm gonna paint over top. Again, as crazy as this goes, I'll be doing airbrush effects later that will change the values. What I want to do is I want to hammer down the structure of this Galactus in the dark values. I've also I dragged a knife around this just to put some weird lines, some texture in the paper. I just thought that would be a nice touch. That is a weird. There we go. Maybe I'll do this. Hang on. I think that shows up better that way. Let me pull out some of the highlights for where the white's going to be. Yeah, I thought also keep on thinking he's the actor who was in CSI, the black guy with the super light blue eyes. I liked the way he had this just a cool look for him, and he seemed to be the more humane of the crew at the point in the movie. And Ron Perlman was good in it, of course, because Ron Perlman's always good. A lot of people forget Ron's in that. God, they sound like Trump there. A lot of people didn't know Ron Perlman's in that Alien 3. And Josh Whedon, I think he wrote it. I could be forgetting. He might have co-wrote it, but so yeah. It's like if you got a xenomorph in it, I'm gonna watch. I even watched the Alien Predator movies, which were, oh my god, they're so terrible. They are so damn terrible. But I watched them because I'm an alien head, and I will watch pretty much anything that has an alien in it, and then complain about it after because most of the things with aliens in it are terrible. But Romulus, considering it was made for TV, it was going to stream on Hulu, and it was so much better than they anticipated that they decided to give it a theatrical release, which is something I think they should have done with Prey, which came through the same process. And I think because Prey was so good, that's when they realized that's what they should have done. Probably should wait for this to dry a bit more before trying to go for really super dark areas. Because that was bleeding over here because there's a little bit more water here. Yeah, Prey was so good. I'm so happy that they're apparently working on a sequel now. Put some darks just in here, and I'll tighten them up later. Just because I mixed up a brush with a lot of heavy blacks in it. I'm also probably gonna, after I get all the darker values, I'll establish or reestablish a lot of my whites and everything with white paint, colored pencil. It's not true watercolor. I guess I'm approaching more from an illustrator standpoint. Whereas like I'm just getting it done as effectively as I think I can using the media to the best of my ability. So I'm not afraid to cover up areas where I know I'm going to go back to white or very light color later, because that's what all my white media and lighter media is for. And I can also, make a special point to get special values in the airbrush when I bring the airbrush in later. Hold that up a bit. Just slapping down some darker values in areas I know it's going to go near black. As the stuff dries and everything. And also, by using different media, I can go really dark and then do very carefully and lightly build up values coming out of the darkness, which will allow me to get a lot more textures in without having to mask things off or any of that stuff, which can be really time consuming. So I got some more of those vents on the arms. I knew I'm going to do that, so I might do some washes showing that these things are venting too, or starting to vent. Or I might just leave them as is, just as design elements that just create a little more visual interest. I was kind of tempted to do like ruins of a city, which was initially where my scraping was going to come from. But I don't want to distract too much from the big G here. So I think it's just going to be special effects in Galactus, and where he is up to the viewer. Oh, the water's not absorbing very fast here. It must have been a wetter wash than I thought it was. So you can see here, I indicated I'm going to be doing like all these rib lines, kind of like, like the way Geiger does all those like spinal column bits. But with this, I'm going to do the base value. I'll probably go in and draw with a matte pencil the actual dark lines, and I'll go back in and paint the highlights on top of that. And I'll go a lot faster that way. Which is, part of it is you gotta go to a certain speed with a lot of this stuff. And you have to be careful that it doesn't become mush, though. So it's really easy to let all the wetness just flow together, and everything just suddenly just doesn't read very well. So I have to be careful about that. There's a part of me that could possibly. I should probably check for. Hey Jim, how you doing? Predator franchise in general though too. Yeah, I like Predator 1 because it was like just stupid fun. Predator 2 was just terrible. Trying to remember if Predator 3 was Predators by Robert Rodriguez, because that had fun bits in it. I mean, it had Mahershala Ali and a whole bunch of other actors that you just kind of have to love. But yeah, some Predator stuff, the Alien versus Predator stuff was just so. You have to think that anything that is that studio managed is just going to be bad, no matter what happens, no matter what creators are involved, because it's going to be studio driven, not creator driven. I think if like you went, hey Guillermo del Toro, why don't you just give us an Alien versus Predator movie that you'd want to see, and we're not going to mess with you. That's probably something like that is probably the only way you're going to get a decent Alien versus Predator movie, by getting someone who can have fun with it. G's cousin Factory Totem? I don't Refinery Boy? I don't know. It's again, as I talked at the top of the video, how this is very much making Galactus my own. So it's not so much about doing something that Marvel could use. I don't think they would want that different a take on Galactus without like a steampunk type justification. Like if they did Fantastic Four set in like the 1870s or something, Galactus would show up and he'd be like a steampunk planet eater, I guess. I mean, there'd be no justification for it, but that's what he could be. I'm not using this piece of dowel I found as a maul stick, because the other thing I use for a maul stick is an actual broomstick, and it's too big, and I'd keep hitting the camera. Okay, the paint's starting to sit a little bit better. Still not going to go right to the edges yet. Oh, and then I go right to the edges. It's bleeding a bit, but that's okay, because it's going to be smoky and hazy up there. I can even do this with a nice waterproof black marker if I wanted the black to stay there untouched by any of the pigment effects I do. I could also use a black colored pencil, which would give me problems because there's wax in it, and it would resist the water, but it would give me blacks that wouldn't move. I was talking to some friends today. Oh, here we go. I was talking to a friend today, two friends today, about trying to have guests on my stream when I talk, so you'd be able to see two artists chat and draw. Not necessarily theme drawings, although that could be a cool thing. But like someone like Mike Ruth would be a natural, because he's a good friend and great artist. But like some of the other people I've talked to don't want to drop their names, because they may change their mind, say, "Fuck no, I don't want to be on a stream with you. What's wrong with you?" But it would be really cool to actually, for you guys to actually see two of us talking about our decisions, and you get artists ask I'd ask them about like why they're making a certain decision about a piece they're working on, and they'd be able to ask why I'm doing something. Why are you doing that? That's stupid, Richard. Stop that. The usual artist talk. Okay, that's getting close to the value I want. Why is this loose? Just wiggled a bit. There we go. That should be tighter. There we go. I think the tightening bolt on my the rig I have my camera on just loosens up just by touching it sometimes. Also, having another artist here would completely get rid of the idea of dead air. So to always be able to someone to be always talking instead of like just babbling. I don't know anyone who babbles. Do you? There was part of me after watching Romulus to take the initial drawing, go over it again, and give it a complete H.R. Giger treatment, make it like a real uh, biomechanical planet eater. And I realized that's too derivative. I've already done some alien artwork recently. I'm showing off a bunch of other alien stuff. I figure I don't want to become a one-trick pony about alien stuff. You know what I mean? Although I might still do something like along those lines someday because that sounds cool to me. I'm going darker and let this biomechanical stuff inside his belly. I was thinking about when I was drawing this. I was thinking about the way the Borg in Star Trek were designed, where they have like kind of like armored pieces, but whenever you see anything that's their body, it looks like it's nothing but wiring. I kind of thought that would be kind of cool for this. Like it's like he looks human, he's not, and he's got like he's like completely made up of some sort of like biological. Like he's entirely designed to like do all this terrible, terrible, terrible stuff to like planets that are capable of supporting life. So you have like this weird kind of anti-life looking body, at least to my mind. Go a little bit darker up here on this. Just running the brush around like a mop. Just trying to get those values down there. So this is probably the most like drawing painting gets when you're doing additive value building, and it's like working with charcoal, but it's wet. Actually, I have liquid charcoal. I have yet to try. I bought it when my friend Tony Moy was in here last year for a convention, and we went to an art support store I like. And he bought something. And I was like, oh, I should try it. And then it's been sitting in my studio ever since. The hair there. There we go. My hockey brush sheds hairs like crazy, which is tedious. I think if this was an actual like cover illustration, I'd probably be drawing it in pen and ink, because that's generally what I'm most comfortable with, and then I'd digitally color it. But I would be planning out the highlights and darks in a very similar way. I think what I'm doing, yeah, gonna wet this. Just want to get this one little square area. Weird polygonal area wet, so I can actually do a wash down it. So I can get it darker without being too dark. Pull that. Oh yeah, show it. Pick up a little bit more pigment. There we go. Almost not going down smoothly as I like. There we go. Push it back up. I'll pull it out here. One of the things that happens as you work is as dark as these clouds at the top looked when I started, they don't look as dark now, do they? I mean, because I got some like really dark blacks here, and when these are dry, they're probably not going to be as black as I hoped they'd be. That's one of the problems with gouache; it dries a little lighter. Got some pigment there on my fingernail. I just know my luck of probably scratching that with something I don't want it to. So as I go into this, I might go back up into the clouds and find some really, really dark areas to like kind of like paint into there. Kind of dry. Let's see if I can get a nice. Should probably add some more water up to my. I'm still using that same Ferrero Rocher box lid to get my paint mixing tray. If I find these lines are too solid, I'm going to show you a trick I can do to soften them up a bit. That looks like a solid line, but I can just do. And then they'll bleed a little bit. Just a little spray of water. Camera, that looks really, really harsh. It's very surprisingly subtle here in person, but I'm looking at the camera, it looks like these edges are like the values are really, really far apart. That might be some of the settings of my camera, I guess. So the order, when I'm not going to do any of the airbrushing on camera because that would be a nightmare. I'd have to mute everything, and like the last time I muted it for a length of time, I'd probably forget to turn it back on, turn the sound back on. But what I'm going to probably do when I'm done this part, I feel I have the vast majority of the values sorted out in gouache. I'm going to go in and I'm going to use I'm going to load the airbrush with black gouache, or I might even I have a airbrush medium. I might even add it to some acrylic black gouache, and then just push the values exactly where I want them as to even them out too. And which is pretty important for everything tying together. Let that dry, and then I'll go back in and that's when I'll go back and I'll put in the absolute white highlights. And then I'll probably do a fair amount of like diluted white gouache, or I might even put a layer of fixative on it and then do that with white acrylic gouache. Again, a lot of problems with this, doing this live, and I'm not doing specifically just like watercolors, is I have to wait for things to dry so often, and that just slows the whole process down. But I can this big a piece, I can jump around different areas. Instead of like what I was talking about before, where I should, for smaller pieces, I should have two pieces on the go, so I can put something aside, let it dry, and then give you guys something else to look at. My phone notifications are going off like crazy tonight. Whenever that happens, maybe I'm just a worry ward. I go, oh gosh, something happens with one of my friends or something. I should check. So I'm just gonna finish unloading this brush, and then I'm gonna check my phone for like 2 seconds, which you guys won't know, so I'll just see my hand disappear. And one of the things I can do is I can do either Krylon workable fixative, which it's weirdly a little water resistant. That's in the aerosol can. Or I have this other brand that Kent Williams, if you don't know his work, you should. He's amazing. He recommended this non-toxic, all-natural, all-media spray, which I've used a few times. So I might give it just something to keep the water from waking up the really, really thick areas of black gouache, because gouache really loves waking up again with water. So, and then I can do the works on top of it. And who knows, I could do like a whole bunch of different layers with a little bit of layer of fixative between each layer, which allows me to do so many different special effects. Take a look at my phone now. Okay. Oh, someone sent me money. Yeah, someone sent me money. Yay. Must have bought something in my shop or something. I'll check into that later. And it's like 5 of those notifications you might have heard were just various notifications from PayPal. All right, that's cool. So these gray areas around the head, they're still going to get darker, but I need the head and the wings to be as dark as possible. It's again, it's a value game. So this chest area, I'm going to make it a little bit darker, but not as dark as that. And then this is probably going to get a little bit darker. And then this stuff is probably going to stay similar. There's going to be a depth element happening here in this hand. There'll be some white paint going on around his hand here. But this will be blown out with some airbrush. I'm going to point this down here. Actually, let me push this back up a bit. Get more of the piece so I can talk about it. So absolute black is probably going to be limited to Galactus's head. This would be the next darkest along with the smoke, and there'll be light areas affecting everything around there, so I have to be careful around that. This will just be a little bit darker, but there's this light source here with this ball here, so it's reflecting light around it a bit. And these things are going to be very intensely light. I'm going to be doing some very light washes, and I'll be probably using white paint in this area to eliminate the lines that showed up too dark. You trace everything over with a number 10 black pencil. Things get lost or too dark. Let me soften this up here a bit. And the legs, I'm going to be doing a lot of different things here, but it's basically, I could probably bring the gray wash all the way down. I might even do another big hockey brush gray wash down here to about there. Allow this to be white, and I'll sign down here in the whitest area, the bottom corner, down down here, which you can't see. I just realized you can't see where I'm talking about at the bottom. Let it come down a little gray. Let all these values get darker. Let this be like the white, and then these white highlights leading up through Galactus here. And there's going to be some like other techno lights on. It's two. Soften these up a bit. So getting like a pure white there will really make it pop. And I kind of like the idea that you're looking up through, like, this is some explorer or something is just observing Galactus eating a world, and this is what it looks like when you're at essentially near ground level as the world itself is being consumed. I just thought that'd be kind of a cool thing, kind of a cool visual. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go do another gray wash all the way down, let everything get darker. And yeah, and then I'll use white paint. I'll pull out the details. Like, I want to put like almost like a Iron Man like disc of light inside his palms. So the palms are a light source too. So it's almost like he can start blasting the surface of the planet with like this light in his palm, and that's how he's eating too. So he's eating with the bottom of his feet and his hands, which may sound weird, but he's Galactus. He eats planets. What do you expect? Thing is, I don't want to do that wash too soon, because everything up here at top, what I just did in the clouds, which I needed to do, is still pretty wet. So what if I just put a little bit more gray down here? Get that started. Oh, that's so pretty. That's a little pigment. I have to thin this out a bit. Boop. There was talking about how I need to let this dry and go. I had a lot of water to this area. Hey, Riddick, thank you so much. Yeah, if you want to like the video, that would be awesome. Apparently, the way YouTube decides to put this for other people to see, if people like the video, the more subscribers, the more likely it's going to share it with other people. And if you leave a comment, like, why didn't you draw Etrigan this week? Which I might do next week, because Etrigan's awesome, and it's been a while since I've done Etrigan, so I could do like a nice black and white painting of Etrigan next week. That's the plan. Although I really should get serious about doing more work on the witches and start promoting the next witch book. We're working on it so long, I've been kind of like deciding to keep it quiet for a while. I should really get going on that. And I think I will get news about everything. Everything is at the distribution center for Coven, as I understand it, what I've been told. So maybe they've already started shipping it. I know the Zoop people that usually tell me everything have been stupidly busy for a while. So it could very well be that it's already started happening and they just didn't get a chance to tell me yet. But my impression is that everything is, everyone should start receiving them very, very soon. I should be receiving some. They asked if I wanted to see it soon. I said no. Let's. I'll get mine the same time as everyone else. Um, but I kind of really want my book. I want to see my book, man. I might even with the face here. I might even go in with some black pencil and like I like doing like a completely like the way Mobius had like Galactus is like his face was like so ancient, like almost like horror movie wrinkles level ancient. Indiana Jones, like when the guy got really really old there at the end of the Last Crusade. Just do that and like, but it's going to be so small, it's going to be hard to tell. But I might just do it because I'm that kind of guy. You know, this part of the finger should be a lot darker. How dark is this? Still not dark enough. Mm-hmm. Love all those symbols, redneck. I can go darker. Not that dark. I can pull that around. Also going to be doing a whole bunch of like details, probably with ink lines on his gear to give a sense that, again, he's techno-organic. That'll be fun. All right, I think I got a lot done already in an hour. So I think I've mentioned a bit a few times that I'm dealing with some like kind of health stuff that I'm struggling with, which is making my energy levels a little lower. So I may not make it to 8:30, but I think I'm making some pretty good progress here. Pull some of this up because that's too dark still. It's a little weird with gouache. You have to kind of sometimes wait for certain areas to dry and then scrub them back to get some of that darkness out, which is, you can never really get rid of all a pigment with gouache because it stains, because it's just that sort of pigment, but you can pull it back quite effectively. But I think I'm getting a fair amount done for this piece. I may even add some like extra weird organic piping and stuff on his body as I go along. Just I go, oh, that area would look more interesting if I did this type of thing. In terms of like, see how dark these areas are up here? Let me move this up here a bit. See how dark the smokestacks on his forearm got, or the back of his forearm? I'm not quite sure. Let me wet up a brush here. With the belly of the chimney coming out, I can like just use a little bit of water and like lift some of the paint. So it's the idea that there's some light hitting that, and suddenly it becomes a little 3D. Whee, 3D. I really gotta get darker on that finger there. Excuse me. I can even do some like wet splatter. Got some like visual debris in here. Do all this. And then give it like a little spritz. It's not bleeding out as much as I want. A little spritz from a distance with a water bottle. And all of a sudden those splatters diffuse a bit and it just becomes like visual noise. Which is kind of like what I like. I like a lot of textures like that. I mean, there's like a whole bunch of like, to my mind, cheesy things. I remember first time I was in art class, they said, "Oh, you can create textures in your watercolors with salt." So you throw down a wash, and then you just sprinkle some salt on it, and the salt sucks up the water and some of the pigment. So you end up with these weird kind of like reverse things. And I thought that was cute, but it didn't quite have the effect that splattered paint has for me. There's something about splattering paint just does it for me so much more. And you can see back now I went in here with all this dark. And you can see as it's drying, this light's probably reflecting off of there a bit. Here we go. Wow, there's a lot of reflecting light. It's really just a gray, right? When it scans, it'll scan darker because there's some weird, like this is darker than it looks like on the camera. Also, oh, you know what? Look at that. My pale ass white finger sticks in there, and it actually captures the light properly. Let me stick a piece of white paper in here. See how dark that gets? Turn the lamp back here. Okay, that looks like a much more accurate. I think maybe the green tape's throwing off the camera a bit. That's a lot closer to the value I'm seeing in person in the studio. Yeah, those are closer to the darker values. It's a little reflective if it's still wet. That water, even though the paper is dry-ish, it won't dry until like it's like sitting for like 15, 16 hours. Trying to think what I could really show you. You know what I could do? I could do some of the black airbrush to wrap up the session tonight, because the paper could take it. The painting could take it. It just takes me to mix up some of the pigment load into my airbrush. So I'll do that. Hopefully that's not too loud. This is going to have to come way, 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 as high as I can go. How's that? Show the whole image. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up using this. I'm going to mix up a fair amount of nice black gouache to feed through my airbrush, and I'll have to clean it up. I'll have to end the session as soon as I finish that, because I'll have to clean that airbrush. So I don't want that shit drying in my airbrush. So I don't want to have to spend another $200 on, sorry, $180 for a replacement airbrush. I got a stray hair in my brush here. Don't want that going in my airbrush either. I'll make sure I have enough of this pigment. I'd much rather have too much than have to stop and mix again. Okay, so the pressure tank is full. That's what the sound turning off means. So I'm going to try and make sure there's no like loose chunks of gouache, because gouache does tend to break up when it like dries and then rehydrates. All right, clean this off. I don't remember what brand airbrush I have. You can see I've been using it for years. There's some stuff that's dried on the exterior. Even it's 105 Aero USA. There we go. So it's not too loud. Pour all this in here. So that's a load of black pigment. Take a piece of scrap paper. Here we go. And because I'm using a cold pressed watercolor paper, oh, there's the engine again. Because I'm using cold pressed watercolor paper and I'm not spraying straight at the texture, it's actually capturing the texture. Oh wow, I used up all the pigment already. That went faster than I thought it was going to. I have to make more. All right, great. Yeah, it's down and to the right. So it shouldn't be too overwhelming a noise. Not like my electric eraser, which is loud. Break up some of this pigment. I'm just going to use my squeeze bottle to load this. So like, there we go. I think I've told everyone about my squeeze. I have squeeze bottles in my studio full of like fresh water. I change them every week. It's great for when I'm painting, because if I just need a lot of water right away, I don't have to like worry about that my brush rinsing bin is too dirty. I get clean water right there. And I do have to make sure that the gouache isn't like I don't accidentally like take a large chunk of pigment and just stick it in, because that can really clog up your airbrush. You have to then completely dismantle it. How dark is this? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Should be good for this. All right. About the same I mixed up last time, so it should be allow me to finish doing the gray value over everything. Oh, it's more than I used last time. This is great. All right, cool. I'm just going to paint right across the handle. And use white paint to pull that out later. It's too dark. The wonderful thing about using water-based pigments in an airbrush is you can scrub them off in very much the same way you scrub off any other watercolor in an area. And there's the last one I mixed. All right. One of the things I do to clean up my airbrush is I immediately stick it in a water bucket, and I let it just blow bucket water right through it. And I find that does about 80% of the cleaning right off the bat. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of straight up water. Oh, I forgot to do that. This masking stuff I bought specifically for one airbrush. I'd like to stick that everywhere. All right. All right, so I think I've done everything I could do on this piece tonight. I'm gonna have to let this dry for. I might work on it later tonight, but I'm gonna have to let this dry. This is kind of like I think the same thing I ran into with the Joker piece. I got to a certain point and I said, yeah, I can't. I have to start doing some dry media stuff to it. But I think you can see. Turn this away a bit, and what if I turn this like that? No, wow, everything is like just glaring off all the wet. It looks so dark in here, and it's like all washed out and glaring everything here. Yeah, you can see the shine, the reflection of my hand there. Ooh, everything's wet. Yeah, the hair dryer would be way too loud though. All right, so this one will be done probably in a couple of days. It's a bigger piece, so it'll take a little bit longer. I'm thinking next week I should follow through and do that Etrigan black and white painting. I see some running pigment here. Let me just dab that. I can do that while I'm talking. So thank you everyone for showing up. It's always a joy to have people who want to see me do my work. It's flattering as hell. Yeah, a little bit more texture. I can dab in with paper towel here. I found another loose brush hair there. I can even take some of that pigment and bring it down a bit. Yeah, so next week Etrigan, same time, same day and everything. Probably be 11 by 14, like the Batman Joker size. Next Saturday, I've posted online. I'm going to be posting a lot more over the course of the week. Next, Comic Art Fans, which is another channel here on YouTube, and probably the biggest website for comic art collectors in the world. Comic Art Fans. If you're not familiar with it, just quick Google and you'll find like there's a character you like. Just type the character name, Comic Art Fans, and you'll see like 70 different versions by 70 different artists. It's really awesome. Sometimes when I'm like bored and just want to like have like who has this artist drawn this character? Like has Kevin Nolan ever drawn the Thing? Of course he has. But then I would be able to see either whether there's original art from Marvel that he drew the Thing in, or if he did like a commission with the Thing, and it's there. But so what's happening is they're having a live event next Saturday, and so in 6 days, and they're going to be interviewing me, so I'll be talking my head off, and they'll be asking me questions. So probably be more of a cohesive entertainment venue to talk about comic art and experience and stuff. And I sent them around 20 pieces. I didn't count them. We just sifted through art, and I sent it to them. And that includes the that Joker, black and white Joker painting, black and white Batman painting I just did. The Savage Swords of Betty and Veronica, like a whole bunch of recent pieces I did specifically for that because I thought they'd be fun for the comic art fans. And they have a huge audience of comic art buyers. So some of them hopefully will be buying some of the art. It'd be nice, it's a nice income thing. They're taking like an agent's percentage, which is perfectly fair for this type of thing. Considering I no longer have an art agent, it's probably a good idea to do things like this. And it's like a whole bunch of covers, like the Johnny Quest covers I've just done, some Barbarella covers. I think the Vampirella cover I just did in that package too. So it's a ton of covers. The entirety of the covers from the last arc of Second Coming, because those never went up for sale as far as I know. My art, I never sent them to my art rep before. My art rep decided to rip off hundreds of us artists and abscond with our money, promising to pay us, but then never, ghosting us. Anyway, all right. So, again, thank you for showing up. If you want to support me more directly than liking and commenting on this video, because that's always welcome, I have a $1 a month Patreon, which I'm pretty happy. It's got a nice community and it's slowly growing, and I like that. You can if you just want to see my stuff on social media, I think, even though I'm on Cara under Richard Pace and Bluesky under Richard Pace, I'm on Instagram under Richard Pace, and that's where most everything gets shown up. Although, if it has to be, it's censored. And yeah, and then I'll be around next Saturday for. And again, also, if you have questions, especially if you're a Patreon supporter, if you have any question, you want me to show something, you want me to demonstrate something. I've said this before, but I don't think I said enough. If you want to say, you know what, I have a real problem with drawing biceps. Okay, I can do either the entire stream or part of a stream, just showing examples of how to address certain things visually. Like you're having problems drawing wrists. I can do a half hour in drawing wrists and do examples on camera. It doesn't always have to be doing a piece of fan art or a piece of art for an assignment I'm working on. So all right, you guys have and wow, I actually went to 8:20 considering how tired I am. All right, you guys have an amazing night. You guys have an amazing week. Hopefully, I see all of you next Sunday if you can make it. And I should get a tagline like "Keep reading comics" or you know, "Beat up your sketchbook" or something like that. All right, guys, you have a great night, and I'll see you next week.